very critical of the United States response over the last 72 hours. Not always the United States specifically, but the West in general.
And pronounced Ukraine standing alone and asked for more assistance. It's at one point in a message to the EU dramatically said that this might be the last time that he was seen alive. So this is a significant change in tone to thank the U.S. for its support, and also important to keep those lines of communications open, as it seems to be that this is going to be a fairly long crisis, not something that's wrapped up for one side or the other in just a day or 2 or 3 days. Right now, the United States continues to put men and materiel in the eastern regions of NATO and get ready for a large number of expected Ukrainian refugees coming west across Ukraine's borders. Mariam?
Now, we know that the US has now joined the EU in directly sanctioning President Putin and Russia's Foreign Minister Lavrov. How effective do you think these sanctions are going to be?
Well, sanctions against individual Russians were part of the American design of its sanctions plan from the beginning, when they said they didn't want to hurt ordinary Russians with more broad-based measures, but target specific elites inside Russia. And of course, Sergei Lavrov and President Putin himself are the elites of the elites. Now, in the last 30 years, a lot of men have gotten extremely rich in Russia, but Russia hasn't been a great place to park that wealth, as we've seen with the cratering Russian stock market and the ruble at its lowest value historically. So they have tended to keep that wealth outside the country in pounds sterling, in euros, and in dollars. This leaves men like President Putin, rumored to be one of the richest men in the world, particularly vulnerable to the kinds of sanctions announced by both the EU and now matched by the Biden administration in Washington. Whether this is a pinch point, whether this is something that will in the short term really pressure the president remains to be seen. We've got a Russian leader now talking about Nazis and dope addicts in the capital in Kiev. It's hard to figure out exactly how rational or how self-interested he is at this point, whether personal sanctions that go after his wealth and the enormous amount of money he's got squirreled away outside the country is really going to change anything in the short term. Mariam?
Great analysis, as always, Ray Suarez in DC. Thank you so much. EU foreign ministers have met in Brussels to pass another raft of sanctions on Russia. Now, following Russia's invasion of Ukraine on Thursday, the bloc proposed punitive measures against Moscow. The sanctions target Russia's energy, financial and aviation industries. The EU's Foreign Affairs Minister, Joseph Borrell, said they have also approved the freezing of assets owned by
We have adopted sanctions package which was agreed last night by the leaders of the member states. You know that the European Council provides political guidance in order for the Council of the Foreign Affairs Ministers of the European states approve formally and put that into actions. We have listed today President Putin and Foreign Minister Lavrov.
Now from Brussels, Shona Murray says there are questions being asked as to why the EU is not taking SWIFT, the international banking system, off.
There was a strong expectation. We spoke about it a couple of hours ago that the SWIFT payment system would be on the sanctions list. There was hope that there was unanimity on that, requires unanimity. That wasn't able to happen this time around. Joseph Borrell said it's still on the table. Far-reaching and they're the largest set of sanctions the EU has ever implemented. They seem to have fallen flat and seem to have disappointed. We heard commentary from the likes of Donald Tusk, the former president of the European Council, who said the countries that were against you putting SWIFT on the set of sanctions, that they were disgraced themselves.
So a little bit of disappointment there, and that SWIFT hasn't made the sanctions list. Now the EU, it's told Ukraine that it's not alone. We've seen, of course, these financial sanctions, but the Ukrainian President Zelensky says more help is needed. So how far do you think Brussels could go? Could SWIFT actually make it onto that sanctions list eventually, and when and why?
Yeah, I mean, unanimity is the problem here because countries, Germany, Italy, Hungary, don't want have to do to get her around the sanctions, to get SWIFT financial transactions on the list. That's a huge question. We know tonight at the UN Security Council, France is putting forward a resolution condemning Russia for the violence. Obviously, Russia will veto that, but it's hoped that the rest of the General Assembly will vote in favour of condemning Russia, because the EU, again, is not a military organisation. It's an organisation of 27 member states. The tools that they have is sanctions. And so that's really as far as it can go.
And NATO will send more troops to the borders of Eastern Europe. The plan was announced by the Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg following a special leaders' summit to discuss Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The move comes after Poland called for the alliance's forces in the east to be boosted. Together with Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania, and Poland requested the emergency meeting to discuss Article 4, which covers the security of any parties of the alliance that is threatened. And Stoltenberg says the alliance has already strengthened its defence.
We are deploying elements of the NATO response force on land, at sea and in the air to further strengthen our posture and to respond quickly to any contingency. The United States, Canada and European allies have deployed thousands of more troops to the eastern part of the alliance. We have over 100 jets at high alert operating in over 30 different locations, and over 120 ships from the high north to the Mediterranean, including 3 strike carrier groups.
We're going to take a short break. There's still to come on Euronews now. We'll be heading over to Matthew in the Cube.
Amid the attack on Ukraine and growing opposition online, Russia says it has
Thursday. Всем гражданам Российской Федерации, которые выходят, to all the citizens of the Russian Federation who came out to protest, I want to say, we see you. This means that you heard us. This means that you are starting to trust us. Fight for us. Fight against the war. Боритесь за нас. Боритесь против войны.
Europe's finance ministers are gathering in Paris for an emergency meeting to discuss the sanctions that Russia will face. France's finance minister said the package of measures would be massive, but he added that Europe's economy wouldn't suffer.
We stand ready to face the situation. We want to hit the Russian economy. We have decided yesterday massive and efficient sanctions against the Russian economy. And this will be the Russian economy that will pay the price for the decision of Vladimir Putin. This is the Russian people that will pay the price for the decisions of Vladimir Putin. This is the Russian oligarchs that will pay for the foolish decisions of Vladimir Putin. Do not make any mistake about that. They will suffer from the decisions that has been taken by Vladimir Putin. Not the European economy, not the world economy, but the Russian one.
But in seeming contrast to Le Maire, the European Commission Vice President said the sanctions would come with an economic
Already we see some decrease in the financial markets.
But in this situation, as a European Union, as a Western democratic world, we have to respond. And yes, it will come with certain economic costs.
Significantly, European leaders have not yet agreed to cut Russia off from the SWIFT global interbank payment system.
These are some of the few hundred passengers from Kharkiv in eastern Ukraine that arrived in the Polish border town on Thursday.
Using all of our luck coming here, we are many people, many of our friends will get refugee status, but we are fortunate enough to have our accommodation planned, and we are very happy that we have our friends in Poland that are ready to help our people.
Poland has already set up at least 8 centers to greet the people streaming over the border, many of whom are from eastern Ukraine and are leaving the region because they fear for their safety. The centers that will greet them are already set up with places to rest, medical care, and food.
Russia will no longer host this season's Champions League final, UEFA has announced. The finale of Europe's most prestigious football tournament will now be played at the Stade de France in Paris on May 28th. Before Russia invaded Ukraine, it was going to be held at the Gazprom Arena in St. Petersburg. UEFA has also announced that Russian and Ukrainian clubs and national teams competing in international competitions must play home matches at neutral venues until further notice. Spartak Moscow is the only Russian.
You can stay up to date with our top story on this live blog on our website, Euronews.com. Do check it out. We'll be back in a minute.
Our world is evolving faster than ever before. In this Euronews debate, our experts will discuss how to successfully regenerate a town or region. Join me, Damon Ambling, and our panelists live on Euronews.com.
This week on Euronews.
Or not. Enthusiasts in Europe and around the world are finding new ways to bolster public awareness and create unique career opportunities for young people willing to help. As we'll see on Ocean this week on Euronews and Euronews.com.
Get all the international news you want with the Euronews app, anytime, anywhere, on all devices. Download the Euronews app now.
We return now to our main story and take you straight to Ukraine, where Russian troops are closing in on the capital. These are live pictures from Independence Square in Kyiv. As you can see, it's almost empty on the second day of Russia's full-scale invasion. Now, Russia claims it has blocked the capital from the western side and captured a strategic airport outside of Kyiv. This airport has a long runway, allowing the landing of heavy-lift transport planes. The capital has entered into a defensive phase. That's what its mayor is saying. The government is calling on citizens to make Molotov cocktails and defend the city. The Interior Ministry also says it has handed out 18,000 machine guns to volunteers. Now, Western leaders are scheduling an emergency meeting as Ukraine's president has pleaded for international help. The UK says at least 194 Ukrainians, including 57 civilians, have been killed. As you can see here, Ukraine military vehicles are entering Kyiv.